How did your team do in the 2023 NFL draft? Were you satisfied with some of the picks that your respective teams picked, or were there some question marks that you guys thought about as far as when your team drafted those players? And how do you think your team is going to end up this year after getting all the draft picks that they were able to get? We're here to talk about that right here, right now on JP Football Fanatics. What's going on, everybody? This is your boy James here, back with you once again for a pre-recorded podcast here, talking to you about the full NFL 2023 draft, talking about some of the analytics and talking about some of the players as far as picks go, as far as talking about some of the trade picks go, as far as talking like team predictions that could be on the rise, some that could probably slip this year based off of picks, and maybe what some certain teams are probably looking to do going into next season. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Joining me tonight is the man, the myth, the legend himself, somebody that's been my right hand man as far as keeping up to date with me with all the NFL information and the draft picks and everything like that. He's someone that I rely heavily on and is someone that really enjoys doing these with me, as I do myself too with him. Scott. Scott, thank you for joining me tonight.
Yep.
And again, I'm sorry, guys. I know it's been quite a few weeks since I've done one of these podcasts and everything. Life gets in the way sometimes. Sometimes I get very caught up with other things that are going on. So, but I'm here now. I'm here doing this pre-recorded podcast with my buddy Scott, and I'm ready to fill in all the great picks and all the great interesting things that happened during the 2023 draft. I'll be quite honest with you. There were some things that I were kind of head scratchers a little bit. Some of them I really, really enjoyed, which I'll kind of post in another video on my own time. But just gonna kind of give you guys like a basic rundown of like everything that was picked so far and everything like that. So from all 7 rounds at least. So we're not gonna really like ramble on too much on like every single person, but talk about like some of the biggest picks and the biggest question marks. So with that all being said, everybody, if you have not done so already, please be sure to drop a like on this video and leave a comment down below. We enjoy getting all sorts of different feedback and different suggestions on what you guys would like to see going on in the near future. And as do I, because I want to help this podcast grow. We're in the off season still. The draft is over. Free agency still kind of going on a little bit. Some teams might be trading up some of their players and everything in the near future. And I want to be able to relay it all to you guys. So if you please do me the favor, drop a like on this video, leave a comment, tell us what you want us to cover, and we will be able to do so to your most convenience. And also, when you hit the notification bell too, click on the notification bell too, because every time that I post new content, it will be on there always, and you guys will be notified as far as when I go live or I post these pre-recorded videos as well. Thank you. Thank you again, everybody, for tuning in and being able to watch the pre-recorded video of this draft. Scott, you ready to go?
Oh yeah.
I think so too. Let's get started here. I'll pull up my screen. So I didn't make Google Slides for this week. It was just a lot of things that have been going on this past weekend, so wasn't really able to get to it. So I'm going to be able to pull up my screen. I'll kind of just exit out of some things real quick too. Right? All right. So first things first, let's talk about some of the picks that happened in the first round. Obviously, and I've been kind of saying it in, previous podcasts and everything like that. Scotty and I talked about it a lot. Bryce Young was the first quarterback to be taken out of Carolina, which they acquired that number 1 pick overall from the Bears, and they were able to get Bryce Young. I like this pick a lot. I think they're going to really work well with him in Carolina. And Frank Reich, I think he's in a really good situation with some veteran players. Andy Dalton as a veteran quarterback for him to kind of lean back on a little bit and be able to learn some skills and important quarterback skills of what he can learn from a veteran like him and Adam Thielen, which will be a nice veteran receiver for Bryce Young. Then of course we saw the Texans went back to back, which that's kind of what we'll talk about too. I'm sure Scotty will touch up more on it. They were able to get CJ Stroud, which is an awesome pick too. I think CJ Stroud is also going to be someone that's going to be, pretty big in the near future from Ohio State. And of course, they were able to get an edge rusher from Alabama of Will Anderson. So one of Bryce Young's teammates, but going to Houston. So that was interesting. And the Colts, again, I also predicted this would happen too. The Colts took Anthony Richardson, and that was another really good pick too. I think Richardson, we'll talk more about him in the near future too, of where I think he's going to be starting. Not where, but how he's going to be starting later on during the season, and a whole bunch of other interesting picks too and trades that happened as well. So Scott, kind of talk about some of these things a little bit. I know, I know you were kind of high a little bit on Bryce Young. I know you were really high on him, like me too. We kind of were on the same page about him being taken number one. Just talk about like the first night of the draft. What did you think? What were some surprises? And basically, what do you think about some of these picks from some of these teams?
Well, Bryce Young was the first pick. He was I don't like him from the standpoint that he's a tiny quarterback, but he was like the analytics of him and his like mind overall. He does fit like the mold, and like there's I guess this like S2 test that comes out that they really like hammer on quarterbacks now or players in general. And like if they score high on this, they're like predicted to do well in the NFL. They keep relating it to like Brock Purdy, and like he tested super high last year coming out, and now we see like with his success. So like it's really determined. It's like this new thing that like scouts use to predict how good or how bad a player will do. There was a whole thing about CJ Stroud, and like he didn't predict or he didn't test well on it, but it was like after like a partying night or something like that. But Bryce Young, he's Heisman Trophy winner of last year. Was been the Alabama quarterback for the last 2 years. He's just an overall winning like kind of guy. I think he'll do good for the Panthers. I don't know if it's a long-term situation because of his size. He is smaller than Drew Brees, smaller than Russell Wilson. He basically fits the mold of them as well as Kyler. And we know how well Kyler's doing. I mean, Kyler was good most of his career so far, but I don't know if he's a long-term kind of guy, but he has his own issues. Bryce is just that winning mentality. So there's that. CJ Stroud, on the other hand, he's taller, bigger, better arm, has a cannon quarterback. So we thought the Texans were going to take him. We didn't know if they were going to take him or just take Will Anderson and then, trade up later and take somebody else or just punt on the quarterback. They didn't know if they wanted CJ Stroud because he had the same agent as Deshaun Watson. So that was like a thing with them. I think he will probably be a good pick for them. But I mean, this also goes back to, what has Ohio State and Alabama quarterbacks really produced? No quarterback in the history of Alabama or Ohio State has really won anything outside of Joe Namath. And I mean, I talked about that in another podcast with James. So it's just like, are we actually going to see two winning quarterbacks? Or are they just going to be, winning but never winning the big one? It was shocking to see. I watched like the first 12 picks at work, and then my phone actually died with kind of stuff. And then I tried to watch the rest of it at home. They spelled up the version, but I got to see most of it. The Texans trading back up and taking Will Anderson is probably great for them, great for Arizona. Will Anderson's a giant among men, so he's going to be great on defense. And D'Amico Ryans, this is too predicted. You get this coach in, you sign him to a fat deal. He's got 5 or 6 years to work out the team, and now he just drafts 2 big name guys to go through next year. I like the pick. For Arizona, they gave up Arizona first next year, and it's either their pick or the Browns pick with Deshaun Watson pick because the Browns gave up their first this year and the first next year. So I believe the Texans gave up the Browns pick of next year, which could be good or bad, or it might be the Texans. I'm not sure yet. But spoiler alert, I think the the Cardinals might be in line for Caleb Williams next year. Them or the Commanders are like the odds-on favorite to be the number 1 overall pick next year, or be in the top 10 and probably trade 2 or 3 picks to get up to the top 10. The Cardinals now have 2 first-round picks, so they can do that. Anthony Richardson, he's a beast. He's built like DK Metcalf. He lit it up for Indianapolis, and it's funny they said that he lit it up in the combine. He just should have moved all his stuff into the locker room because he got drafted by the Colts. I think he's going to be a good pick or good quarterback for Shane Steichen and the boys. So, we all know Shane Steichen worked with Hurts, so maybe this will just be a good change of guards from Hurts to Anthony Richardson. And the other point I want to talk on the top is just you can see it on the screen right here is the Falcons did it with Bijan Robinson. This is I'm a big running back kind of guy. So I was just sitting there and I kind of did like one of these things in the air when Bijan got drafted because we were all like hoping that he either went to like the best situations would have been like the Falcons first of all, and then like the Eagles, and then outside of those 2 top 10 teams, it would have been like the Chargers, but then Eckler would have had to been traded, and then the Bengals and Joe Mixon would have had to get released, and not the Texans because I just would have think they would have like drove him to the ground like they did with Zeke.
Yeah, this was definitely. I feel like the Eagles could have used someone like him. I mean, I'm not against him going to Atlanta at all. Like, I don't think that's a great pick for Atlanta, but I'm just a little surprised to me, that was a surprise. I did not see that one coming. And
that was
there was a couple of ones too I wanted to mention. Excuse me. That one was definitely one that I didn't see coming. I knew Seattle definitely was going to take a defensive player. I knew the Raiders were going to take a defensive player, and they both smashed those 2 picks there. So
you're saying like the top 7 picks were like what you saw, you could see, but you like Bijan was a surprise to you.
Well, I knew he was going to get chosen high in the draft. I'm just kind of surprised that the Falcons were able to were wanting to get someone like Bijan. I can't even say his name.
Bijan Robinson.
Like, I wasn't really expecting them. Like, I would have thought like a team like the Eagles or the Cardinals could have probably used him, or the Bears could have been in a position they could have taken him to. But the Bears need offensive linemen, and they were able to get an offensive lineman right after
the Bears make sense.
Jalen Carter. So
yeah, I think the Eagles and the Falcons were like the odds-on favorite. It is a surprise because if you're not like following it to a T, but like they drafted Kyle Pitts 2021, and then they drafted Drake London 2022 and Bijan Robinson 2023. So 3 offensive players in back-to-back drafts, which you don't see a lot from teams. They usually switch it up.
And the Falcons have actually been having a very quiet off season where they've been just stealing players left and right in free agency. Like, I think this Falcons team could probably make some noise and sneak up on some teams this year. Now that they got a running back, a legitimate top 8 running back in the draft from this year.
Yeah,
they could be sneaky good. So I think it was a great pick. Like, I am definitely not opposed for them getting a running back. I was just surprised that was something that they wanted because I thought at one point they probably would have wanted to get maybe like an offensive lineman or something like that. They were going to try to draft in this first round here, and maybe like another legitimate wide receiver or a defensive player. Like, I thought that's what they were going to do. So this one was a steal for them. So I think this is a good pick for them.
I mean, they're not stacked overall, but like you said, they got all their defensive players in the offseason. They traded for that corner from the Lions. What's his name? You know who I'm thinking of?
I can't think of the name right now, but
I
know what you're talking about.
They did trade for that Lions player, and he was a top 10 pick. I remember from years ago. And he was been really good. I think he was hurt up and down though, but they did. And Arthur Smith has been quietly, underrated.
Yeah,
You
no,
you
Arthur
you
Smith
said
is
some
a
good
good
things
coach.
about him. So and like he comes from the Texans, or not the Texans, the Titans. So like right when I like if you go to NFL Network on your phone or whatever, and you click on the pick, it shows the analysis of it, and they compare Bijan to Derrick Henry. So like that makes sense. So like Arthur Smith is going to treat Bijan like Derrick Henry, which then goes into our next our next topic, or next pick, I should say. Bijan is probably going to get 300 carries this year, or 300 touches. This guy's going to be ram like a tank. So I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, and knowing that the Falcons are a running team, they like to run the ball
Yeah,
strictly. So that's
I
what they
think.
did with Mariota. I think that's what they're gonna do with Ritter this year.
Yeah. They said Mariota. They said like combining all of them. They said they were like top two in running last year between Mariota, uh, Patterson, Algier, Caleb Huntley. All of them like combined for the second most amount of rushing in the NFL. The next one was actually a surprise. Was the Lions at 12, trading back, I believe, like 2 or 3 times in the top 10, because they were they traded Arizona's pick. So I think they were at like 6 or something like that, and then they traded back with Arizona, and they took Jameer Gibbs. And
That was a big shocker. Big
yeah, it was
shocker that they
it
took
was
another running
crazy. It
back.
was crazy to see, and I was surprised. I was like, no way. And now it's like, is this the guy? Is this going to be the guy, the second coming of Barry Sanders? And it might be. I mean, and then you look back at it, and it says, you click on him, and it says, Dan Campbell, former Saints OC. So they look at Jameer Gibbs just like an Alvin Kamara 2.0. So they're gonna probably try to feature him in the same way. And I'm really looking forward to that too. So I hope he's not going to be as like highly like touted as Bijan Robinson, but I mean, if he turns into Alvin Kamara, we're going to be talking about this guy for years to come.
100%. Like Noah, this was a nice pick for them. This was probably one of the only few picks from Detroit this whole draft that I think people were actually happy about.
Yeah, they've been wanting like an all-star back like for a while now. I mean, they tried to do it with his former teammate, who they traded, by the way, Swift, 2 years ago when they drafted him in the second round, but he's just hasn't been healthy, and they couldn't get it out of him, so they just taken another run at that an all-star back.
So that was interesting to see. I think that was a something that I don't think anybody was expecting to see the Lions be able to want to do, to get a running back like this early in the round. So, but good pick though. I think it was a good pick. And then kind of fast forwarding a little bit after Green Bay got that pick from after they traded Aaron Rodgers, they moved up 2 spots with for Aaron Rodgers to get Van Ness, the edge. Good solid pick right there. Steelers got an offensive tackle. That's something that they could have used. The Jets, I don't know. I think Will McDonald is good. I think he's a good player. I think he'll be a good defensive player, but I think the Jets should have focused more on fixing like that interior offensive line. I think that's something that they should have really focused on more, but it's not a terrible pick by any means. Now this Patriots pick here for Christian Gonzalez was a smasher right there, like a no-brainer. Like you would have thought the Patriots would have tried to have wanted to get an offensive player, but knowing Bill Belichick and the way he drafts, he always likes to go for those defensive players first. And for him to get Gonzalez from Oregon was a smasher right there. That's something that New England was able to really go ahead and steal. That was a big steal for them.
Yeah, they said all the analysts were hyping up the Patriots in after the draft, like they stole all the good picks or something. I think Gonzalez is like super tall or something like that, or fast.
Yeah, he's insanely tall, and he's a jump ball kind of guy. So if you're throwing the ball in his direction, you better hope that your receiver that you're matching him up with Like if you think about the conference that they're in, the division that they're in right now with the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Jets now, you know what I mean? Like they're gonna have to he's gonna have to really work with like Stephon Diggs, he's gonna have to work with Tyreek Hill, and he's gonna have to be able to play coverage with Garrett Wilson too, which is gonna be some of the fastest receivers that and the best receivers that he's gonna see in his own division. So I think this was a great pick. I think it's something that the Patriots definitely needed. So now I think getting this corner could probably, probably put the Bills on notice here. They could probably put them at the edge of their seat. Really have to plan for him and the Dolphins too. I think this is a great pick. He's going to be good for them for the future.
Yeah, I think if I remember right, Christian Gonzalez, uh, that might not be the same guy. It might be. I don't know. It says he's only 6'1". I remember in the draft, you see like the pictures of the green room, and there's this tall black guy who's like 6'5" or something like that in this like polka dotted suit. I mean, he didn't stick out for his suit; he just stick out for how tall he was.
Oh,
One of these,
was it Tyree Wilson from the Raiders who they drafted?
it might have been.
Because that was a huge pick there for the Raiders too to get an edge. That's something that they needed to do to take that pressure off of Max Crosby, and they definitely needed to go defense there for the first round. So that was a good pick for them. Let's see what other ones there. Wide receivers, the first one that was taken from the Seahawks.
Yeah, it was Tyree Wilson because I see the suit now. Yeah.
Yeah, the Raiders took him, and that was a great pick for them. They'll take that. I think him fitting into that Raiders defense there, I think it's definitely going to take a lot of pressure off of Max Crosby and Chandler Jones there too. I think that's a good pick there.
Yeah,
for them.
Yeah, I see why. So Tyree Wilson is 6'6", 271. I just remember seeing this guy in the green room, and he's in the suit, and he's like, "Oh my god, this guy's a giant."
He looks like Darren Waller to me. When I first saw his picture, he looked exactly like Darren Waller. He's huge. He's muscular. Like he's going to be someone that no one's going to want to see.
Oh yeah, and he was drafted from Texas Tech, which is where Mahomes played. If people don't remember,
and when if you're scared of Max Crosby, I think you're going to be more scared of this guy. This guy's a beast.
Yeah, it says he has 35 and 8 and an 8.5-inch arm span.
So, yep. So that Patriots pick was awesome. I think that's great. Detroit got Jack Campbell at linebacker. The Bucks took a defensive tackle, can't see. Then the first and then the first receiver was taken by the Seahawks, Jackson Smith, Njigba from Ohio.
Yes,
State.
Jackson Smith and Jigma. We had the 4 run on wide receiver, which I believe they said was like the first time in like 50 years that it was 4 receivers taken back, 4 like back to back.
Yeah. And then Quentin Johnston from TCU, the Chargers drafted. Zay Flowers, perfect pick for the Ravens.
Yeah.
That guy is going to be the next Jamar Chase. I'm calling it right now. Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers. Watch out for that combo. He's going to be legitimately the next Jamar Chase.
Well, yeah, let's talk about the 4 receivers because this is like our thing because we focus more on offense than defense because we play a lot of fantasy football. But I think Jackson Smith with Jigma was kind of like if he didn't go to the Texans or if he didn't go in the top 15, it was like a foregone conclusion that he was going to the Seattle Seahawks and he was the first wide receiver taken off the board. I heard it like all week and all last week, the last like 3 or 4 weeks that I was listening to draft analysts from Fantasy Football Today, all kinds of podcasts that were just talking about, Seattle looked bad when they only had DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett got hurt. So that's why they were targeting another wide receiver. And then they get this slot freak in Jackson Smith-Njigba. And they hear all these stories about how when Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson were playing with him, they both said he was the best wide receiver on the team when all 3 of them were on the Ohio State team. So, like, let's see it. And I hope it's true. I don't know if Garrett Wilson can feed 3 top wide receivers like that, but I don't think he's going to have a big impact in his first year, but I mean, after year 2 or 3, Tyler Lockett is getting up there in age, so it will soon be Smith, Ajigma, and DK. Quentin Johnson, tall guy. He's like the tallest of all the wide receivers. The top like 5 or 6. After that, there are some tall guys, but he's like this is like the short wide receiver class, but he's the tallest of them all, basically. And I think this was another thing. The Chargers need a pass catcher. Mike Williams gets hurt all the time. Keenan Allen's getting up there in age, so like this is their next like big guy. I don't know how well he'll be used in year 1 as well, but I like the pick.
Yeah, I kind of want to talk about this one. I listened to podcasts too. I listened to the Bottom Line View, and when the Chargers picked Quentin Johnston, he wasn't really that impressed with the pick of it. They probably because the Chargers are a good team. They're not a great team, but they're a good team. They're a team that can beat you, but they're not a scary team. Like you said, like Mike Williams getting hurt and Keenan Allen, getting up there in age. Johnston is going to be good enough for them. And I don't think this was a bad pick. I think he's going to be good enough for them, but I don't see him being like a Keenan Allen or a Mike Williams. Like Mike Williams is the jump baller, and Keenan Allen is the route runner. I don't think Quentin Johnston is really that great of a route runner. And I think just watching like some of the film that they were showing on ESPN didn't really seem like he was someone that was going to be effective into this offense for the Chargers. And knowing Brandon Staley too, he's the defensive guy. He hasn't really focused much or fixed much on the offense during the offseason so far. They haven't really done a whole lot. So I mean, Herbert can probably acclimate him into this Chargers offense, but I don't think he's anywhere. I don't think he's that special, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, this is like a Kellen Moore pick, so like they want to chuck the rock and run the scoreboard up. So this is like a Kellen Moore pick. Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison, 2 smash picks. Zay Flowers is that speedster, and so is Jordan Addison. So I think they're both going to be great picks. Zay Flowers is just that another piece for Lamar Jackson. It's something we didn't hit on is Lamar Jackson signed a 5-year deal earlier in the day, so he's now the highest paid quarterback, and he's with the
Ravens.
Ravens. Yeah, he's with the Ravens for the foreseeable future. And now he's got another piece. He's got Zay Flowers, Odell, and Bateman and Andrews at tight end. So he's got a stacked offense.
Yeah,
and Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison, I love this pick for Kirk Cousins because I just feel like this guy is going to have a great season now. He's got all these weapons, and Jordan Addison is way younger and way more able than Adam Thielen has been the last year or two.
Almost definitely. I think trading away Adam Thielen, it was time for him to go from Minnesota. So for them to get someone new that can kind of keep up with Justin Jefferson, I think this was a great pick. I think Kirk Cousins is going to be much more consistent this year with the football. I think the Vikings are still a team that are good. I still think they need some work to do. I think they need to work on that defense some more. They did get a corner. I think they need some work to do on that defense, but be on the lookout for the Vikings in a weak NFC because they probably can sneak up on you in any given minute. And then a couple other picks too that I saw. Deontay Banks from the corner from Maryland for the Giants. The Giants drafted him. I think this was a good pick. They needed some secondary players. I'm fine with this pick. The Bills getting a tight end, Dalton Kincaid.
They traded up to get him too.
I don't know. What do you think about this pick? I feel like the Bills should have focused more on getting a running back or an offensive lineman because they need to work on the offense or even on the defense and build some more strength in the defense.
Yeah. I don't it's not a flashy pick, but it's just a pick that tells you that they want to beat the Chiefs. That's their main goal, is just to beat the Chiefs and be the AFC powerhouse. I think that this will be like a top pick for them in the future. I don't know how well it will be with him. They might run 2 tight end sets. I don't know if this is like a replacement for Dawson Knox, but I think it's more of like we're gonna load the team up with, like, 3 wide receivers and 2 tight ends, and now we're just gonna beat you everywhere and anywhere.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll see where that goes for them. Anything else for the first round? Not really anything too much. But there is one that we kind of want to talk about. Not much to really talk about left from the first round, because a lot of the rest of the picks were kind of anticipated a little bit that would have gone at some point. But a quarterback of Will Levis. Joey Porter, by the way, the corner from Penn State to go to the Steelers. That's a good pick. I think the Steelers probably should have focused more on getting another offensive lineman in this round, or a receiver, but this was
they got it. They got the pick in the first round, basically. So
Yeah.
they got Porter in the second round, which was good for them.
Yeah, no, this was a good pick. But Will Levis, someone that a lot of people, I didn't think he was going to go in the first round, to be quite honest with you. I was not that surprised when he didn't go the first night. Just because I think of him being so raw. Like, I know, Scotty, you and I were talking about it the other night with Richardson versus Levis and everything like that. Like you were saying, Richardson is very raw. That's how I feel about Levis. So the Titans trading up to get him from Kentucky and having Malik Willis, who they drafted the year prior, and now they have Ryan Tannehill. This just kind of shows you now that they want Ryan Tannehill out of town, and Will Levis will be a starter at some point this season.
So I don't know if it's this season, but I believe it says that Will Levis is like 3rd on the depth chart now, and he's behind Malik Willis and Ryan Tannehill, which is not like a big thing, because if you hear anything about the Titans and what they saw last year, I mean, Malik Willis didn't play in that game in Week 18 for them versus the Titans, so because they knew how bad he was, they signed somebody off the street, from what I remember. Mike Vrabel does not like Malik Willis at all. They like hated that pick, and they regret that pick ever since. This is like Ryan Tannehill 2.0. This is who will take over the team, not this year, but probably next year when Tannehill's contract runs out. I think they're going to give it one more run with Tannehill, and if they look bad mid-season, maybe they'll pull him, do one of those. But they probably took him in the second round basically for him to sit and learn and become more of a polished passer. But if we could hit back on the first round a little bit, we'll see the Eagles took with both their picks, Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. If anybody doesn't know this, the Eagles are the Georgia Bulldogs 2.0, because now they have I think it was like 5 guys, because they took a cornerback way later in this draft that was another Georgia pick. So they have like 5 guys from that Georgia team of 2021 and 2022 now, the last 2 years.
Yeah, no, I think the Eagles smashed the whole draft. I think they pretty much, I would say they probably got an A+ the whole draft. I hate the Eagles, but I think they got the A+ draft. They really killed it. So Will Levis going in the second round, that was kind of interesting to kind of see, but not that surprising. And not that surprising that the Titans kind of did take him later. They waited to take him until later on. So
yeah, he was the favorite to go to the Titans. Like I heard a couple teams, but Titans were like the one that were like sticking out the most, that wanted a quarterback. So like he was like, I was like, if I could predict any place, it'd be to the Titans.
I think it will work out well for them too. I think he'll definitely learn under Ryan Tannehill, because Tannehill can still win games and stuff like that. But I also think the Tannehill train and the hype and everything in Tennessee is all over now.
Yeah, he did better with Arthur Smith than he did with whoever their OC is now.
Yeah, I don't even know who it is now. And Derrick Henry getting older too. I thought that they would have worked out a deal with the Eagles, but they'll get another year at least with Derrick Henry unless another team wants him, aka the Bills should be trading up for a running back, in my honest opinion. So maybe.
Yeah, it might be, like you never know what happens. It could be like during the trade line. Like last year, we saw Christian McCaffrey moved in October. So maybe that's when Derrick Henry gets moved. Maybe, because the 49ers are still a good team then. They didn't go on the run until like mid October, but it was still around that. I think it was after that game. I think once they traded for Christian McCaffrey, they never lost a game after that. So, I mean, the Bills might be the same way. They might, start out like 3-1 or like, 2-2 or something like that, and then trade for him in like the beginning of October.
Yeah, because right now it doesn't sound like Austin Eckler is getting traded anytime soon, which I was hoping would be the for him to go to the Bills. I think he fits the best in the Bills offense, in this offense that they have. But Derrick Henry, a little bit older, definitely not a great receiving running back. So like he can't really catch like the long ball or anything like that, but he gets the job done. He's a bull rusher, he's a beast. So I think that's something that the Bills would definitely benefit from. And that could be like the slightest of margins of what they really need to get themselves to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and then we see the Panthers make the right decision in the second round. They draft a wide receiver. Where is it right here? It's
Jonathan Mingo.
yeah, Jonathan Mingo. That that was a good move to take Bryce Young and then follow it up with a wide receiver because they literally have no one outside of Adam Thielen on their team. I think they got a bunch of like I think
They have
Clark.
Terrace Marshall too.
Yeah, Terrace Marshall's on the team. DJ Clark is on the team, and then like a couple of other guys that never really worked out anywhere is there. So, yeah, this is stepping in the right directions. Michael Mayer was taken by the Raiders. He was talked about heavily outside of Kincaid. Then there was a bunch of offensive and defensive players. Nothing that really stuck out too much. The Seahawks taking Zach Charbonnet at 52 overall. That was shocking. When they made the pick, I was also at work at that point, and I was like, wow, this is a kind of a head scratcher here. Apparently, from the analyst point, that they say that the Seahawks always run multiple backs, but I mean, Kenneth Walker looked like a stud last year. So I don't know if Charbonnet is just going to be a depth piece, a room filler, since they don't have a ton of running backs on the roster. I hope he doesn't take away from